memorize that. So functions in foods and beverages. So sugar is used to sweeten. It can either be added directly or through a sugar syrup formed by dissolving sugar in water. If you've ever made iced tea before and you want it sweetened, a lot of times you make a simple syrup, which is equal parts sugar and water. You bring it up to a boil on the stove and then you shut it off and you let it cool. And then you can add it to mixed drinks. You can add it to lemonade, iced tea, all the above. Sugar, sorry, my dog just barked. Sugar also functions in food as adding texture and or mouthfeel to the food. This is based on the sugar solubility. It provides bulk, viscosity, and body. So if you've ever, I think I might have talked about this in another PowerPoint, but if you've ever made cookies and you tried to cut back on your sugar and then you find that your cookie does not have the same texture, it's because you cut back on the sugar, unfortunately. And then crystallization can also be a good thing in candy making and baked goods. So depending on what type of candy you want, and you're going to cover this in so much detail in advanced food science. So some candies you want to promote crystallization, and some candies you want to avoid crystallization. So when you want to promote it, you'll use a granulated sugar, and when you want to avoid it, you'll use an invert sugar. If you want a creamy texture, think about it this way. If you want a creamy texture, you're going to want an invert sugar. If you want like a hard candy texture, you're going to want a granulated. Then you want it to crystallize. So more functions in food. So browning occurs with sugar through the Maillard reaction. So this is when reducing sugars. So this is going to be sugars that are disaccharides or more, because they have to be able to be reduced down to monosaccharides. So such as glucose, fructose, and maltose. And proteins brown at a high temperature. So this happens actually when you grill a steak. It also happens on the outside of baked goods. Sugar also caramelizes. When you melt sugars, you get a chemical reaction which breaks the sugar molecule into smaller pieces, causing them to darken and create complex flavors. So you can make caramel one of two ways. You can literally just put sugar in a pan and cook it down until it melts and becomes caramelized, or you can also add water to it. If you add a little bit of acid, lemon juice, it helps prevent crystallization. Sugar has hygroscopic properties. This means it absorbs moisture, which increases shelf life and freshness. As we know, sugar is a preservative. That's why it's added to so many foods in our diet. Sugar provides a source of food for yeast. It aids in which aids in the fermentation process. We talked about that. So it can also play a role because it does feed yeast in beer, wine, cheese, yogurt, and bread baking. Sugar preserves foods by inhibiting microbial growth and dehydrating bacteria. So along with its hygroscopic properties, if you remember, bacteria loves moist environments. So because sugar is hygroscopic, it can help inhibit the growth of bacteria and it can dehydrate it. And then sugar aids in the creaming process, which gives aeration to baked goods and provides the proper texture. So if you guys remember when we made our chocolate chip cookies in lab, we creamed the butter and the sugar together. And this provided some volume for our cookies and that texture that you're like looking for. If you make chocolate chip cookies with by creaming butter and Splenda or butter and something that's not sugar, you will not get that same texture. So another function in food is adding sucrose to a solution. Sucrose, again, table sugar, will increase its boiling point. So you can see that here. So boiling point is normally 212 degrees Fahrenheit. When you add 40% sucrose to your water, then you increase to 215 degrees Fahrenheit. If you add 90% sucrose to the water, you're going all the way up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit for boiling. So that's really interesting. Another function in foods. And that is it on sweeteners. We're going to talk a lot more about sweeteners in our lab demonstration, and then you guys are going to have to answer some questions based on the scones that I make about the final products and how how sugar functions in food and how that affects those final products. So more to come. But let me know if you have any questions.